While we are waiting, if Emily Likens is here. Emily, I'll let you introduce yourself. Yes.
Let's see if I can get through this without Leo getting a control of the microphone. My name is Emily Likens, and I'm the only organizer for any central labor council in the state of Montana. I work here in this building right next door, and we mobilize workers from all kinds of industries. We have teachers and Northwestern Energy linemen and postal workers and nurses and home health care workers in the CLC. And we mobilize these workers in an attempt to build a base of power that's going to withstand the turning tides of electoral politics. So if you want a way that you can resist each and every day when you get up to work, join or form a union. And if you'd like to join or form a union, please talk to me. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you to the Union Club for hosting us. Tip your bartenders, folks. Thanks.
Are we doing good? We're ready? And, you know, to that end, I just would like to point out, it's really wonderful. We have a mix of solid nonprofits that have been doing the hard work year after year after year. We have new grassroots organizations that have formed, never until November 9th, and have just kind of jumped into it. And it's just really wonderful to see how we can support each other to promote progressive values. So let's see, how about Tether? Would you like to join us? And our panelists can come up too.
Aaron?
Yes.
Quick question.
Sure.
Is there anybody here representing Senator Daines' office tonight?
No, there's, actually I say no, but I will check. Is there anyone here on behalf of Senator Daines? Raise your green card. You are? Okay. And just so everyone's clear, and I'll talk about this before Tether comes up. We did want to set some ground rules for tonight. It's really important to Missoula Rises and the other folks that are co-hosting this with us that this remains a civil discussion, and we are very intentional with our words because the senator is going to see this. So for us to maintain our credibility as his constituents, it's really important that we are not swearing or acting of anything of that nature. It's okay to be passionate because frustration levels are high when you have a member of your Congress who refuses to talk to you. To that end, we have provided Senator Daines multiple written invitations to this town hall. We have put on our Amplify app. If you don't have the Amplify app, please download it because Missoula Rises and Indivisible Montana, we post daily actions, state and national, every day for you to partake in. But one of our actions on our Amplify app was to call Senator Daines' office, his DC scheduler, and his Missoula office and remind them that his constituents would be here and that we want to talk to him. And this truly is not a gotcha event. We really want to sit down and have a true dialogue with our senator about the issues that are important to us. I want to hear from him why he voted certain ways. That's important to me to know that. And maybe if we understood his perspective, we wouldn't be so frustrated. Or maybe he would learn new things from his constituents. There would be things that we have to offer that could potentially change his mind. So that's why this type of dialogue is important. And I just ask that everyone keep their questions respectful and intentional. Fine to be passionate, it's fine to be direct, but just be respectful. So those are the loose ground rules. Everyone okay with that? Raise your green card. Thank you, thank you. Okay, Tether, if you want to come up. And then we'll get this rolling.
Aaron? Yes. While you're sitting up, did you get any response from the senator or his office?
The response was a non-response. The response was not, no, he will not come. The response was, we either don't know about it or we don't see it on his schedule. So that's a great question. Thank you.
And do you have any idea where he is?
Yes. Well, I think. We don't know his schedule, and his staff apparently doesn't know his schedule either because that's what we've been told. However, we do know that tomorrow he will be in Hamilton, which, as we all know, is about 50 miles from here, and he is campaigning with Donald Trump Jr. On behalf of Greg Gianforte, who's running for our House seat. So that's where he will be, is at a private fundraiser. Yeah, which is unfortunate because we know he's in the area and there's lots of constituents here that would like to speak with him. So.
Hello, my name is Tether, and I'm the Regional Field Director for Montana Conservation Voters. I think you've probably heard of us. Okay. So, I'm the Regional Field Director for Montana Conservation Voters, and you might have heard of us. We have been in the community working on projects for about a decade now, and we work to fight for clean air, land, and water. We opened a new climate action team office here in Spruce, and I have a couple of our newest Missoula organizers to talk a tiny bit about what we're doing and why we're here today. We have Bethany, Joyce, and Cameron Best right here out front. We have Shanae and Dan. Dan is going to be working at Bozeman. We have Dane right back here, who is filming us for Facebook Live, and he's going to be in charge of Bozeman. If you have questions or want to get involved, please tap any of us and we'll answer away.
So I'm Cameron, and I'm a field organizer for Montana Conservation Voters, and this is my co-organizer, Bethany Joyce here, and I'm going to have her give you guys a little rundown about what we're doing and some of the things on our agenda right now.
So I've been told we need to keep this very brief. So just to give you a quick overview of the importance of our fight, this is a nonpartisan issue. Since the time of the Copper Kings, we have been a community, a state, a land that cares about its waterways, it cares about clean air, it cares about conservation. It's not a left versus right thing. We all are here to protect this land and to have access to this land as constituents of this state. We have really unique laws which we would love to protect, and what we're doing in this non-election year is just to show our delegates who don't deign to come here that sorry for the fun, but we care. We care about clean water, we care about public land access, and especially stream access. Hunters, anglers, left and right, we both care. And Senator Daines needs to realize that Missoula, as the progressive seat, not only the progressive seat, the largest city in the west of Montana, we can't be ignored. And you're all here because you care about being a part of democracy. So I thank you for being here, and I just wanted to give a quick rundown of our climate action plan. Montana is uniquely poised in the United States to be a part of this solution. We have a really special program that's in affiliation with other statewide programs throughout the United States. We have Montana Conservation Voters specifically has a 2017 climate action plan, and our whole goal, you'll see, you probably came in and met two of our organizers. They probably made you sign or asked you to sign. We care about clean water. We care about public land access, and that's it. It's a nonpartisan issue, and that's what we're here to protect. It's as simple as that. And I'm going to turn it over to my coworker Cameron, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the specifics of our program. Thank you, guys.
Could be a national leader in clean air, public land. So if you want that at all, we have some postcards attached to our toolkits. Those are the clean budget toolkits. Those are out. You may have got one. If you and get back to you to answer those questions. Thanks.
So those are the co-hosts of this evening, those two organizations, as well as Indivisible Montana, which is run by Sydney Schweitzer. I don't think she's here tonight, but she's one of our close partners in crime with Missoula Rises. So cheers to Sydney. We wish she could be here. All right, so we should get started. I think we've given Senator Daines ample time to show up. I don't think he's going to. So what we're going to have you guys do is ask your questions. Like I said, we are going to broadcast his positions. I actually thought they were going to be on these screens, but they're not. It looks like his official positions will be on that back screen. So what I probably will do is just bring the computer over here and read to you what his official position is. So if you ask a question about, say, Planned Parenthood, I will tell you what his official stance is or how he has voted on that issue, so we're clear about what he has done. After that occurs, we have our panelists who are going to briefly introduce themselves and then have a seat here. And they are experts or emerging experts on certain topics that I think will probably be raised tonight. So after you ask your question and we hear the senator's position, I'm going to hand it over to our panelists who can tell you what action you can do to help protect the issues that are important to you. Because Missoula Rises is an action-oriented community grassroots group. So we want to give you action items to do. So express your concern, and then we will give you actions to help protect the things that are important to us in this community. So that being said, I am going to let each of them come up and just briefly state their name and the issue that they will be speaking on, or giving you action items on.
My name is Pam Boyd. I'm here representing Missoula Area Resistance Collective tonight, and I'm here to represent healthcare issues. I'm a nurse practitioner and have worked in the community for about 20 years as a nurse practitioner, and so it's an issue dear to my heart. So hopefully I will be able to answer some questions.
Hi, my name is Josh Manning. I represent what we could call the progressive veterans community. I work for a group called Common Defense, which is headquartered out of New York City, but we have affiliates all over the country. We worked at Trump rallies in the last election trying to draw attention to the fact that Trump has no military experience, and you've seen how that paid off. And then we've also cut our teeth in Standing Rock and some other areas, so we're out there. And so I'm here to talk about military issues. I worked in the intelligence community for 12 years, so I can talk just about any military national security issue that you have.
Good evening, my name is Laura Terrell. I'm the Vice President of External Affairs for Planned Parenthood in Montana. And as you all know, well, hopefully most of you know, Planned Parenthood provides critical health care services to people who need them and deserve them. And why women's health has been politicized is beyond my comprehension most days, but we look forward to taking your questions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Carter, and I'm with
Rebecca Weston.
we are part of Montanans for Immigration Justice. We are rising or budding non-experts.
Not experts, just care passionately.
Care passionately about making Missoula and Montana a welcoming community for immigrants and for new people to join us.
You've already introduced yourself.
Hello again, I'm Heather, and I'm going to be representing land and water rights issues and conservation issues.
Do we have someone to represent education?
Yeah, Grace. Grace is here somewhere.
Great.
Grace is in the. We've got Grace here.
Grace, do you mind coming up with us? If you would like. Grace will introduce herself, but she's going to be our panelist on public education. Thanks. I'm Grace Decker, and I've worked in primarily early childhood education, actually, for about 25 years here in Missoula, currently serving as a Missoula County Public Schools trustee, and I am very passionate about all issues that affect students of all ages. So I'm not an expert about all of them, so I may have questions to return But I have questions for him too. Okay. Technical difficulties here. I was just looking for, not my computer, so I'm looking for the website that gives his official positions. And while that is being found, does someone want to start with a question for the senator? Okay, make it easy. Let's break us in here.
Hi, my name is Celeste Thompson. I'm one of the thousands of caregivers across the state that care for our seniors and people with disabilities. The funding for our clients' care comes from Medicaid. How can we trust Steve Daines to protect Medicaid when it's his party that is threatening radical changes and cuts to these programs?
Steve Daines doesn't have an official statement or position listed on his website for this issue.
So I'm going to pose the question, how many of you out there feel that Medicaid cuts, that you're not in favor of Medicaid cuts, that you would like Medicaid funding to stay? Put your green sign up, your green sign. There we go, because we want him to see how everyone feels about this issue. So.
I know.
Okay.
That was like a double negative.
Now, to that end, I've got some good news on the Medicaid and Medicare front. Pam, would you like to address that issue? Okay, and let them know about your group and what they can do. And do you want to?
I know. So we know that the Affordable Health Care Act was saved this last go around, but it's up for assault again with a new bill that is even less, it provides even less coverage for people with bigger cuts to what is happening already. Our group has been happy that the ACA has been saved, but it's really obvious that there are some issues with it, and you can't ignore that there are issues. Premiums are going up, insurers are pulling out of the insurance pool, so people are having a more difficult time finding people to cover them. There's a lot of issues that need to be looked at. So we have formed a group called Medicare for All, which would look at the expansion of our current Medicare program to cover everybody. This would take healthcare out of your employment and make it something that everybody had a right to. So we are promoting that. We have a Facebook page that you can join if you would be interested in following along with what the group is doing. I'm proud to say we have almost 400 members since we started it this week, so that is really nice. We are also looking at being present at the May Day picnic that is going to be held in Bonner Park on May 1st. We'll have a booth there with handouts about the current issues, where we stand with healthcare in the world today compared to other countries, what we would like to see, and how we might be able to get there. So that is something that we will be putting in production before long. Also, we would encourage you to go to the website for Physicians for a National Health Care Program. They have put forth a proposal for Medicare expansion, and they're looking for support. So you can go and click your support. So there are currently over 20,000 physicians in favor of this, and many, many more healthcare providers and people who are not in support, who are not healthcare providers but in support of it. So they are encouraging people also to go to their representatives to push HR 676, which is a bill that has been introduced to Congress every year for a lot of years now to expand Medicare for all. But there is not a companion bill yet introduced in the Senate, but we're hoping that that will come through as well. You can always write letters to the editor and begin to generate interest about that, pull up information about our current system and the problems, and also where we rank with healthcare in the world, and get people to start to think about this issue. Also, letting our senators know where you stand is very important because it is going to land in their lap sooner or later. There is going to be a movie that is shown at the Roxy on May 15th as part of the Missoula Area Resistance Collective film series. And it's Sicko by Michael Moore, and it takes a look at our crisis that's happening in our healthcare at this particular point, and it kind of looks at us around the world. So if for kind of a fun, entertaining way to look at this, we would encourage you to go to Sicko on May 15th. So anything else that you can think of to do, we would welcome it, and we would welcome anybody who's interested in working with us to please just look at the Facebook page and try to join, and we would love all your help.
We're going to have Denver come up and talk, and I'm just going to say something in between, and you're going to hear me say this probably 100 times tonight. Educate yourself on the issues, then act. Educate, and then contact your representatives. We saw what happened with the ACA when we were repeatedly contacting them. Use your voice, it means something.
Absolutely, 100%. I just want to say a quick word about persistence. Our organization, SEIU 775, represents service employees all across the country. In Montana, that's home health care workers, that's nursing home workers, it's group home workers. Like Celeste said, these people take care of the elderly and the disabled, people who are least advantaged in our society, and it's because of our tax dollars that that happens. Now, our organization played a huge role working with coalition partners to pass the Affordable Care Act in the first place, and then we worked our asses off to pass Medicaid expansion. How many people know someone who has been advantaged because of Medicaid expansion in the ACA? Right? That's a lot of people. That's 71,000 people in this state that have health care because of Medicaid expansion, and about another 70,000 that have health care because of the ACA. That's real change, and it happens when real people take action. How many people have made a phone call to defend the ACA? Can I see those hands? That's awesome. That's great. How many people have written an email to our senators? That's awesome as well. I've got bad news for you, though, because it's not enough. It's not enough to make one phone call. It's not enough to write one email. It's not enough to tell one friend. It's about being persistent, because you know what? The other side, they're not doing this once. They're not saying, hey, can you please repeal the Affordable Care Act and strip health care away from 140,000 Montanans. They're not doing that once. They're doing it every single day. And we have to have the same persistence and the same courage to stand and fight for what we've won, and to fight for people who cannot fight for themselves. How many people are with me? Let me see those green cards. How many people are going to call tomorrow? That's right. That's what it's going to take. So keep fighting, keep the faith, and keep speaking up, because it makes a damn difference. Thanks.
So I'm just going to put in one last plug for our app, and no, we don't make money off this. I'm not a paid protester, none of that business. If you don't have the Amplify app, get the Amplify app, because it's got the script, we had the ACA on there, and it makes it part of your everyday routine. We tell you what to say, we tell you what the issues are on the state and national level, we've got the phone numbers. All you have to do is open up your app, see what the actions are that day, you make it part of your daily routine. And it's okay to call them repeatedly on the same issue. Do it every single day. Okay, next question.
Dear Mr. Daines, sir, I have two related questions for you. In light of the overwhelming evidence that the Earth's climate is changing in an unprecedented and dangerous manner, and in light of the nearly unanimous consensus among climate scientists who have studied the issue that the change is human caused and to a large extent caused by the combustion of fossil fuels, what actions will you take as our elected voice in Congress to protect your constituents and the environment that sustains them from this crisis? And will you fight to keep us in the Paris Accords? And my second question, in light of the fact that economists predict, due to market forces domestically and abroad, that the coal industry will continue to decline in the U.S., what measures are you willing to push forward to help coal workers and their communities transition successfully into new jobs consistent with a burgeoning clean energy economy? Thank you, Steve.
We're looking up his official position on climate. I think we might know what that is. But just because we want to be fair and clear about what his positions are. So here is Senator Daines' position on energy, natural resources, and public lands. It's all kind of grouped together. Montana's economy is dependent on expanding and sustaining reliable sources of energy and also ensuring robust public use of public lands. We need to continue to expand North American energy production to lower energy costs for all of Montana, create good-paying jobs, and ensure our unmatched outdoor recreation opportunities and unique wildlife populations are protected for future generations. So that's the Senator's official position on the unique questions that you asked. Do I have someone, a panelist, that would like to discuss those issues? And they're obviously relevant with Earth Day coming up. March for Science too.
So, here at NCV, one of the main ways that we believe we can work with Republican and Democratic representatives is to hold them accountable to the statements that they make, which are positive to our environment, and hold them accountable when their vote does not support that. Right now, we're looking at passing a lot of funding bills with some riders that are effectively going to gut the EPA. How that stands in support of the public land is a reason to so we are organizing to have people come together and stand in support of our environment starting. Right now we have a nice list of tweets and messages and regarding specific issues that we can act on in front of us. We're really encouraging you, if any of your issues are relevant to supporting conservation of our lands and strengthening our clean energy technologies right now. It's a federal issue, but we are looking to communicate with some of our state legislators as well, looking at expansion on metering issues, in particular for the clean energy. So first, we're going to do a march. We highly encourage you to take any of those questions, write them down. We will be delivering them to Daines' office this coming week. Support us like that. Please drop into our office and talk to anybody here about the abundance of opportunities we have coming up to communicate directly with customers and see if the we're also putting up letters right across your city.
and I are not experts on the topic that was raised. I'm putting that out there right now. But what I am going to do is tell you that if you are interested in taking action on the question that was asked and on these issues, I would encourage you to get in touch with Climate Smart Missoula, Abby Youssef. She was unable to be here tonight, but she is a go-getter on these issues. She actually went out with a group to see Senator Daines and talk to him about these issues just this past month. So if you want to get involved with a really great grassroots action group, and they're nonprofit, I would highly recommend Climate Smart Missoula and Abby Youssef.
I also just wanted to let people know that there's a campaign at the University of Montana to divest from fossil fuels, and there's going to be a week of action next week. There's information about that on the on the Facebook, and contact Reinvest Montana. And also just to give a round of applause to the activists who got the city to divest from Wells Fargo. So there's a lot of action actually happening, and people are doing a lot of great work. Yeah, green card that, right? Serious green card for that. So I just wanted to give a shout out that there's a couple of other things going on, and those are also going to be happening at the March on Science, or March for Science in the 29th.
This is a related question, but how many of you are Gonzaga fans? Do we have any in here? Oh, I thought we'd have more. They also have the same campaign to divest from fossil fuels, and they're getting really close. So if any of you want to support them in that way, that's another major university that's going down that road. So.
I just want to make a clarification. This Saturday is the March for Science. It's going to be at 1 o'clock. It's a rally, actually, that's going to be at Karis Park. And the 29th is the March for Climate Change. So there are two different marches on both Saturdays.
Okay. And one quick housekeeping. We've been told that when you raise your cards, if you hold up your green card but you've got your red card behind it, to the camera it looks like you're holding up your red card. So let's just go real quick. Medicaid, ACA. Okay. Okay, put them down. Climate. There you go. All right.
So sorry you couldn't be here, Mr. Daines. I have a couple questions about education. The first three are really yes/no questions. Number one, how many of your constituents called you, emailed you, and asked you not to support Betsy DeVos? Number two, what are her qualifications? Number three, did you talk to anyone with expertise or knowledge about education or cognitive development before you affirmed her position? Given that, what are you going to do now that you have someone as the head of education without the experience or knowledge? What are you going to do to support higher education, education K to 12 in the public, while at the same time your new person and the president are cutting funds from education, diverting money for security for Mrs. DeVos, and trying to put most money into charter schools? Please answer that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, but I didn't catch your name.
I'm sorry, Arlene Walker Andrews.
Okay, thank you. While we are looking up his official positions on education, I actually can answer some of the first question at least. The question you asked was, how many of Senator Daines' constituents called in to oppose Betsy DeVos? That was a great question, and in fact, Missoula Rises and myself individually asked him that question. We wanted to know how many of your constituents opposed, how many called in favor. We were told that they wouldn't release those numbers. We asked the same of Senator Tester. I should add that Missoula Rises is progressive leaning, however, we're nonpartisan, and we hold all of our members of Congress equally accountable on the state and federal level. So that being said, we asked Senator Tester, and he did actually divulge his numbers. I don't recall what his numbers were, but
8,000.
38,000.
8,000 to like 30.
Okay, so he gave us those numbers. So again, one reason why it's important to download that Amplify app is that when you call, you hit a button on there that lets us know that you've called, you know, whatever person that we've asked you to call, whether it's Senator Daines or Tester, and that way we can potentially track our metrics. We can track how many calls are being made on certain issues. If they're not going to tell us, then we're problem solvers, we'll do it ourselves. So get the Amplify app. We actually have an in-depth answer to your question.
We do. Hi, I'm Taryn Pettit. I'm actually a middle school teacher, and so this is very, very important to all of us. This is from a meeting that Senator Daines had with Betsy DeVos, in which he said, Betsy DeVos has a passion for education and will be a formidable leader at the Department of Education. I look forward to watching her shape the Department of Education to increase local control of our schools with policies that originate with the parents, teachers, and administrators closest to the classroom. They discussed increasing local control over education policies and funding and reducing the role of Washington bureaucrats, efforts to ensure that families are able to provide the best possible education for their children. The A+ Act would give states greater flexibility in allocating federal education funds and ensuring academic achievement. It would reduce the administrative and compliance burdens on states and ensure greater public transparency. States would choose to participate in A+, or they could continue to administer their education programs in the current manner. And I don't have the site right now, but I do know that he is an advocate for privatization of education. So that says it all.
So how do you feel about his position? Okay. So to that end, maybe Grace could talk about, if you're comfortable, the impact of what does that mean for Montana, since it seems that we are a primarily public education state. What does it mean?
Sure. Thanks. So it was really heartening to see the outpouring of resistance to the nomination of Betsy DeVos. And I think in the process of learning what you needed to learn in order to advocate and make those phone calls, as many of you did, and send those emails, you might have learned a thing or two about charter schools and about privatization. Because that's what Betsy DeVos stands for. That's what her career has been about. She argues that charter schools have as good or better results for students, and the data does not support that. Not even in big urban areas, which Montana has none of. The impact in Montana would be drastic to our smaller school districts to have public funding withdrawn from schools that are already fighting to maintain the programs that they serve their kids with. The impact here in Missoula would be dramatic because right now we're already struggling with state and federal budget cuts in Missoula. Senator Daines has said that he's very interested in returning control to the local community. And it's confusing to me how his decision to vote for Betsy DeVos indicates in any way that he is listening to those very local community members. He has a rating of 0 from the National Education Association. If you are interested in staying connected to these issues, I really encourage you to be in touch and follow your local school boards. Follow the work that's happening. All of those meetings, all of those agendas, all of those minutes are public and available to you. I try to keep people posted about the Missoula school board meetings and upcoming issues that are of importance on my Facebook page, where I post videos or written updates about our latest meetings. So you can look for things there. You can also follow the MEA MFT in Missoula. Melanie Charlson, who is the president of our local MEA, is an excellent advocate and a highly knowledgeable person when it comes to all issues of federal and state funding, and alerts are sent out on a regular basis.
If you're primarily interested in early childhood issues, on which I don't believe that Senator Daines has a publicly stated position. But if that's your main interest, I would highly encourage you to follow the NAEYC, who send out advocate updates on a weekly basis, and also to follow Child Care Aware of America, who have a robust advocacy program as well. Thanks. So there's a lot of information coming at you guys, and I just was thinking maybe what we would do is provide a synopsis of these resources and action items, and we will post them on MissoulaRises.com, so you can go there and obtain the information that you've heard tonight about how to take action. And before we move away from the education issue, I see some teachers that are near and dear to my heart, so if you're one of our public educators, would you please, either current or retired, please raise your green cards. Thank you so much for all of the work that you do for our kids.
I speak only for myself in saying this, that I personally am not willing to overlook the fact that Mr. Daines received $36,000 from Betsy DeVos in his campaign, and that her brother, Eric Prince, donated millions of dollars to the Trump election campaign. And I'm not going to be naive enough to believe that that did not influence or actually direct Mr. Daines' vote for Betsy DeVos, despite what he tells us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we don't know. We have green, have red, no.
Yeah. Okay, who has another question for the senator? Let's see. Let's, in the back.
So I'm going to apologize. This is actually going to remain on the topic of education, but my name is Gillian Wiggin. I've lived in Montana for the last 5 years. In my time living in Montana, I have worked with Sentinel High School teaching bike mechanics courses with Tom Like in the shop department. I've worked for Willard Alternative High School teaching their bike mechanics course. I'm currently a history geography education major at the University of Montana. Being about a year away from graduation, I am concerned about the status of education in our country and in our state. So I have this question. It's fairly related, but I already wrote it, so I'm going to do it anyways. Senator Steve Daines, wherever you are, considering the repeated failures of the charter school system under both the Bush and Obama administrations and the numerous fraud cases associated with it, how do you justify your approval and promotion of Betsy DeVos as the Secretary of Education, specifically with her support of voucher programs that could funnel federal funding into the pockets of private interests and away from public school students who need this funding the most? Also, since we've talked about it already, I'd like to defer my panel discussion and move it on for another question, if that's allowed.
Thank you for that question, because every single voice matters in this room. Even if you have the same question, every voice matters. So thank you. Okay, you've been waiting.
My name is Tracy Duffin. I'm a retired public school teacher, and I have a question for Senator Daines, not related to education. I have a question about the REINS Act. It's spelled R-E-I-N-S. It's a fancy little acronym. And basically what it will do, if it has passed the Senate, which has failed in the past, but it recently passed the House, what it will do is it will put the United States legislature in charge of approving regulations. Banking regulations, environmental regulations, packaging of products, approval of chemicals. The 535 members of the United States legislature don't have the combined knowledge to make these kinds of decisions. So I want to ask Senator Daines, how will you vote on the REINS Act when it comes before the Senate? I want to give one example. Here in Montana, we know that maintaining our wildlife populations should be put in the hands of scientists, not in the hands of politicians. So, Senator Daines knows that. He knows that. He's from here, he knows. So wildlife scientists need to maintain our wildlife populations. Please do not vote at the national level to put legislators in charge of public regulations. So, that's my point.
If you agree with Tracy, hold those green cards up. Okay, so I don't think we have his official position on that. However, by holding up those green cards, you're telling him your position, how you want him to vote. So, thank you. Okay, who's got a question? Nancy.
Senator? Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Nancy McCourt. The mic is never low enough for me. Born and raised in Montana, Senator Daines graduated from the University of Montana, went to Montana Public Schools, K through 12. My dad was a school teacher, my husband's a school teacher, my mom was a school teacher. Really value education, but my questions today, two-part question. First, what are some of your personal favorite Montana lakes, rivers, and streams? And secondly, given the 2.5 million miles of pipeline in the United States, and given over 4,000 separate pipeline breaches since 2010 in the United States, including 1,000 barrels of oil into the Yellowstone in 2011, 50,000 gallons of oil into the Yellowstone in 2015, 1,200 barrels of oil into the Yellowstone in 2017, and 176,000 gallons of crude oil in last December in Ashkeley Creek in North Dakota, just a few of those, over 4,000 incidents. And given the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration only is funded for one inspector for every 5,000 miles of pipeline, given all this, Senator Daines, would you assure the protection of the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration and also initiate and support increased staffing and necessary funding to assure safety in all of these 2.5 million miles of pipeline? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Nancy. Before we get to Senator Daines' position on that question, Taryn actually found his position on the RAINS Act. So we've got a solid position, Tracy, to provide you. These are all straight from his website, okay? So this is something he's posted that says, Daines applauds House passage of the RAINS Act. Senator Daines today applauded the House passage of H.R. 427, the regulations from the Executive in Need of Scrutiny Act. Common sense legislation that will bring much needed accountability and transparency to the federal regulatory process. Quote, it's time to rein in Washington's overbearing, costly regulations and provide Montana families, business owners, and hardworking taxpayers with the relief they deserve, Daines stated. Montana small businesses know far too well the cost of Washington's top-down, unchecked ability to issue burdensome regulations. Today, the House took the necessary step forward to bring much-needed accountability to the regulatory process, and I urge Senate leadership to take up and pass this measure. I'm not done. The RAINS Act, which Daines is a co-sponsor of in the Senate, gives Congress an up or down vote on any major new Obama administration regulations, including, and there's a whole list of rules. So that's his official position. And that's how we feel in Missoula about his position. We actually had someone slated to talk about this issue that you raised, but he's not able to be here tonight. So, do you want to speak? Pam's great.
I don't know that I'm great, but I talk a lot. So, in a letter that Senator Daines wrote to Trump upon his election, he put forth a list of things that he would like to see happen. And one of those things was that he would like to see the repeal of the financial assurance clause of the EPA. The financial assurance clause requires companies who deal with toxic materials, whether it's transport or production, to put aside money to take care of any kind of cleanup when they close up their business, or any kind of spill or anything like that. And so if that gets repealed, companies would not be required to set aside those funds. So it would not help in situations like oil spills in the Yellowstone River.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else have a question? You've been waiting. We'll get to everyone, hopefully.
My name is Reverend Deborah Schmidt, and Senator Daines, I appreciated your Easter message proclaiming that Christ is risen on Easter. But I'd like to ask you, given your professed belief, how do you reconcile the biblical mandate in both the Hebrew Bible and the gospel of Jesus Christ to welcome the stranger? And a reminder that we all were once strangers in this land, and that we are to treat the stranger as we would treat one another. I am very, very interested in how you profess to be a Christian and yet reject that important aspect of the gospel.
Thank you for your question. So we don't actually have a quote-unquote official position, but these are articles that he's posted on his website, and I'll just read the headlines because it'll give you a flavor of his official position. Hey, Leo. Daines and Zinke urge Governor Bullock to block the relocation of Syrian refugees to Montana. That was dated November 18th, 2015. October 20th, 2015, Daines condemns Senate Dems' refusal to allow consideration of sanctuary cities legislation. And April 4th, 2016, Daines and 42 other senators file amicus brief in Supreme Court case challenging the Obama administration's immigration executive actions. So, based on those articles that he still has on his website, I think that gives us an idea of what his position is on that. So, to that end, there are things that we can do in our community to welcome all. And to talk about that,
from one pastor to the next, right? My name is Amy Carter. I'm pastor at UCC of Missoula. And on Sunday at 2 o'clock, there will be a block party in front of my church. But inside my church, there will be a group of people called Montanans for Immigration Justice meeting. They've been meeting for a long time now to talk about issues of how we welcome immigrants into our community and trying to demythologize some of the myths around immigration. I have lots of fact sheets here if you're interested in that. We are canvassing neighbors and talking to people in and around Montana, including in places like Stevensville and Hamilton, to try to change public opinion about immigration and to engage people in dialogue. We are starting to do some nonviolent action training so that if any situation were to arise where some measure of peace was needed around issues of immigration, that we would be ready and prepared for that. There are lawyers who are working on immigration issues. We're also doing some work with the ACLU. There are churches in our community that are having conversations about what it might mean to be a sanctuary church if there were ever an undocumented person who needed to find safe haven inside a church and to live there. Would we be ready to do that, and would we be willing to take on the risks that come with that? So we're having all kinds of dialogues and good communication around all those issues. I welcome you to join us, Montanans for Immigration Justice, 2 o'clock this Sunday at 405 University Avenue.
To reiterate one thing that Amy mentioned, and really the basis, the building blocks of this are educating people who don't truly understand what it means to welcome in refugees. There's a lot of myths surrounding refugees and the safety of bringing them here, and a lot of what they are doing is helping to educate through dialogue. So first and foremost, educate yourselves and then go out and share that information with people that you know, because it will help normalize the idea of welcoming those people to our community. So Amy, you're going to leave those. Yes. Okay. Yep, so we'll leave the flyers up front, and feel free to take some of those, and they can help you have that conversation and then start that dialogue with other people. So, okay. Yes. Yep.
Bob Zamorino. The juvenile in me makes me wish I had a magic marker. I'm a husband to a very fine woman. As a matter of fact, I've married 3 times, so I've been around women for a long time. Raised daughters. My question to you, because even being around women all this time, I don't feel like I have any qualification to in any way make decisions about their health care. My question to you is, where are you either eminently or remotely qualified, and this is you and all of your buddies in Washington, the men that stood around that table, how are you eminently or even remotely qualified to make decisions about women's health care? And who are you to vote for defunding Planned Parenthood?
Yes. Susie's got something. Come up and read it. Yeah. Okay, this is great. So Susie Orr just said that she actually has a letter that she received from Senator Daines on this issue. And honest to God, none of this was orchestrated. I feel like this is coming together perfectly.
Yeah, I just got this letter today in the mail, and I want you all to know it was addressed to Reverend Sue Orr. So it's the second letter I've gotten addressed that way. I've written in his office a lot and called his office. And my main concern was what Bob spoke of, and that's how he has the knowledge about women. And this is the letter that he sent me. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for contacting me regarding your support for federal taxpayer funding of Planned Parenthood. I value your point of view and appreciate the opportunity to respond. I certainly believe that women should have access to health care. Montana has 17 community health centers and another 130 health care alternatives to Planned Parenthood where individuals, including low-income women, can receive care. In fact, community health centers significantly outnumber Planned Parenthood clinics in Montana and across the country. I believe that federal taxpayer dollars would be better spent supporting these organizations rather than going to Planned Parenthood, which is the largest abortion provider in the United States. To that end, I have introduced legislation that redirects funds from Planned Parenthood to other eligible women's health care providers, with no reduction in overall federal funding available to support women's health. Again, thanks for contacting me. It's my number one priority in the United States Senate to represent the values and interests of the people of Montana. and your input is very helpful, as I do invite you to visit my website. And one of the things that his office told me when I called them several times is that there are several, as he mentioned, other kind of facilities, but he fails to mention what those facilities are. And I've been told that his staff will get back to me, and I was told that about 4 weeks ago, a month ago, and I haven't heard anything, and I called again and asked them again, and they said they would get back to me. So I just wanted you to know, and this is like, I got this in the mail today, so.
I got the same letter word for word.
See, and again, that's really why it would be so incredibly helpful if he would come talk to us so we could understand where he's coming from. But since we don't have him, which is really too bad, because I'm just going to add before she comes up to talk, I understand his perspective, or what I understand his perspective is that, you know, when he hasn't been talking to us for this long, it feels intimidating or uncomfortable, or he's, you know, it feels like it's a hostile environment. I feel like obviously we're behaving ourselves really well, we're being intentional and civil, but the thing is sometimes in your job you have to do things that you don't want to do. And we are his employers. He is our civil servant. When we ask to speak to him, regardless of whether or not he agrees with us, he comes to talk to us. We don't necessarily get to demand, when you're in DC, you show up on our time, but we have asked, and we have asked, and we have asked with no response, with deafening silence. And we are not going to chase him down. I'm not going to try and figure out his schedule and show up on a doorstep somewhere. We will get together and we will call him to come talk to us, and he's failed to do that. Sometimes you have to do things that don't feel good. That's his job. That's his job. So.
What does he make a year? $174,000. What?
So, again, Laura with Planned Parenthood, thank you for the questions and the passion, and knowing that maybe women should make healthcare decisions with their doctors, not politicians. I want to start by making sure that we're all on the same page about the fact that there's no line item in the federal budget for Planned Parenthood. Moreover, no federal money is spent for abortion. The way it works is that Planned Parenthood is eligible to receive Medicaid reimbursement for services that we provide to Montanans who need those services. Pretty straightforward. So when we talk about defunding Planned Parenthood, what we're talking about is the federal government no longer allowing patients to come to our health centers to see providers that they trust to get the care that they need. And obviously it's a political attack. There's not a good policy reason to do that. The list that Senator Daines is talking about exists because he's given it to reporters. The list was populated by an anti-choice national organization, and it includes dentist offices, plural, let me be very clear, school-based health centers, which I'm pretty sure if I walked into a school-based health center to get birth control, the police would probably be called. Not a viable option for me. And our community health centers are a really, really important part of our healthcare safety net. Numerous studies have been done, especially after the tragic policy decisions in Wisconsin and Texas. Those patients aren't coming back through the doors. When Planned Parenthood health centers close and they're no longer able to see the trusted provider that they have a relationship with, they're just not getting the health care, which has devastating health outcomes for women and families. And the other thing that we know is that our community health centers, again, very, very important partners in making sure that Montanans are healthy, can't provide the same level of expert care as Planned Parenthood can. And they also can't see patients quickly enough. and as quickly as we can. One of the ways in which we are an important part of the fabric of healthcare community, or the healthcare community, is that we are able to see patients when they need to be seen. And they don't have to wait to get their birth control, and they don't have to wait to get a cancer screening, and they don't have to wait to get it tested for an STI and get the medication that they need, because the one thing we know is that people don't typically wait to have sex. So by not being able to get an appointment, they're not getting the health care that they need. Planned Parenthood, as Cecile Richards, our fearless leader, has said, Planned Parenthood is not the problem, we are the solution. I want to make sure we people that support Planned Parenthood and access to the full range of reproductive health care, including abortion, and allowing Planned Parenthood to continue receiving Medicaid reimbursement for services we provide, we're in the majority. A recent poll, and I realize that polls are a little suspect after last November's election, but policy polls are a little different than up or down votes on candidates, that 61% disapprove of defunding Planned Parenthood. When Americans learn that we don't get that there's not a line item budget and money isn't used for abortion, that number increases to 80%, 60% of whom affiliate themselves as a Republican. So this is a wildly, wildly unpopular idea, and thank you all so much for the work that you've done to call and communicate with our elected leaders about these critically important decisions. Quick action items. We have a couple of field organizers here tonight. Please volunteer, sign up to volunteer to get information from us. The Planned Parenthood Advocates of Montana are going to be doing some very critical work in the next few weeks. You guys may have heard about a special election coming up. Please call Senator Tester and thank him for standing with women and thank him for standing with Planned Parenthood. And please call Senator Daines and ask him why he doesn't trust women to make their own healthcare decisions. The last action item I have for you all is please consider running for public office.
This is a question for Senator Daines. Knowing that he introduced this legislation, it's okay, I'm okay. The Protect Funding for Women's Healthcare Act, he made this statement. We must fight for those, Senator Daines, you made this statement. We must fight for those that are unable to fight for themselves. We will maintain funding for women's health care and redirect those funds toward community health clinics that provide comprehensive care instead of an organization that traffics human baby parts. I would like to ask Senator Daines to educate himself and find out the truth, which is out there. He just needs to make the effort to look.
Hold up your card. How are we doing this? It's pretty late in the night. If you support funding for Planned Parenthood, hold your green card up. There we go. And in regard to that last statement, this isn't a question, it's actually a suggestion for our senator. I've said it several times tonight. It's important to be educated and intentional with your words. They mean something when you say them. So when he makes statements like that, he sends out misinformation to a lot of his constituents who start foaming at the mouth and thinking that places like Planned Parenthood shouldn't be funded, and that's not responsible. When you're in a position of power, it's incredibly important to be accurate and intentional with your words. So just a tip for him. To that end, so Missoula Rises in the next month or so will be starting an initiative called Civic Tithing. So along with your Amplify app, where you make resistance an everyday part of your routine and you call your representatives and email them off of our app, we're going to ask that you consider doing civic tithing. And we're going to put together a list of nonprofits that are facing budget cuts on the state level, national level, and you take your pick and you just think about how much you think you can take once a month, twice a month out of your paycheck and do some civic tithing. So we'll start to roll that out within the next month, and hopefully we can help some of our wonderful nonprofits that give so much to our community. So look for that on MissoulaRises.com. And while I'm there, I have to give a shout out to some of our key members of Missoula Rises that do a ton of work. We have Anne. We have Mary Core, who has, you can stand up, Mary, please. Totally turned into my right hand lady. Allison, you are present at every Wednesday work party, as is Karen, so we really appreciate your work. And stand up. Ames. So, and Jeremy Reineke, I saw him here earlier. I think Jeremy has, there he is, there's Jeremy. Turn around and give him a big round of applause. Honestly, Jeremy and Mary, I don't think Catherine Downey is here, but those three have done so much work in our little startup organization. I don't know if we're really an organization, but our group. So thank you so much to them. Okay. Oh yeah, and I'm going to announce that we have several sister groups, but we have a new one that has sprung up, Mission Valley Rises, Democracy Engaged, with an exclamation point, and we have the leaders here. You can introduce yourself if you want. Elaine Meeks and Katrina, yeah. So they have their own Facebook page, and they'll be following a lot of our actions, but if you know people in the Mission Valley that want to get become engaged in civic action, then tell them about Mission Valley Rises. So. Okay, I know you have a question. Okay, come on up. This is my dad. My parents came.
I just have a question for, I'm going to say Josh because I don't trust him, about veterans care. Nationally and in our state, I just lost a person really close to me last weekend, and I saw what the veterans care didn't do for him. So I think it's a backdoor issue. I think most people are not aware, maybe. And there's a lot of young men that come home. A lot of guys my age were in Vietnam, my dad's age, who were World War II, and they're just sort of marginalized for some reason. So, I don't know what Daines' position is. Yeah.
Thank you.
I asked Senator Daines for his position on veterans issues on Twitter. Senator Daines talked to me about guns. Three messages back and forth about guns. And I was like, all right, let's talk about guns for a while. Never answered the question. So that's where he comes from. I'm with you. We've had people in our group who have lost. We had a month where we had a suicide rate. The rate is unbelievable. People are in deep, deep pain for issues that were caused by his party, for lack of a better word. And it seems like they finally realize now that they're in government that they have to fix some of these problems. And when they're confronted with them, they don't want to do much because they don't have any answers. One person who does have answers is a guy named John Tester. John Tester has led the way in veterans issues. And I like John personally, but what he has done, as a ranking Democrat on a Republican committee, is just unbelievable. He has taken these issues, taken them national, and just done it because no one else is doing it. So Senator Daines could do it if he wanted to, but he doesn't because he probably doesn't care. So I think that's where he is on veterans issues. We are used as props in Veterans Day Parade. We are used on the 4th of July. We're remembered on Memorial Day. But when it comes time to really put the rubber to the road, nobody really remembers.
Cannon fodder. That's what they can say.
So there's a couple things I do want to say. I don't know if I'll be up here again. First of all, I'd be really curious to see what a Daines town hall looks like where the people support things like the RAINS Act. Because it would be the CEO of ExxonMobil, BP, Wells Fargo. There'd be 10 guys in the front with a green card, right? Not 80 people. That's the resistance, right? That's why we're all here. We outnumber them. And we don't need to be scared because we outnumber them.
You guys, we've got that script on Amplify. Get that app, and we'll tell you what to say, and you call every single day.
And would you tell us the code? Tell everybody the code.
I will. I'll pull it up. Yeah, because when you download it, there's a group code. And we did find his position on veterans. Found it. Hey, he does. Only answer calls. Okay. Veterans. I'm dedicated to ensuring that our veterans receive the care and benefits that they fought for and greatly deserve. So it's a one-liner, but we don't have any specifics, so that's his official position.
Yeah, but check his voting record.
Yeah, we're having a tough time. Again, it would be helpful to have him here. Did you have to add to the veterans? Okay, I'm just gonna finish this up. Thank you to our veterans and to our current service members. And if you are a veteran or a current service member, please put your green card up. So thank you. Okay.
Where's he gonna be tomorrow?
Tomorrow, he will be in Hamilton with Donald Trump Jr. campaigning on behalf of Greg Gianforte, and it's a private fundraiser. So if you would like to pay money to see the senator and Donald Trump Jr., he'll be in Hamilton. Yep. Okay.
How much does the Secret Service cost?
EPA? Yeah.
Hello again, I'm Bethany. I spoke at the very beginning very quickly about what my organization, Montana Conservation Voters, does, and Tether is our regional field director, and she's much more knowledgeable than I am about this amazing organization we have. It's a grassroots, bipartisan organization. I'm really proud to be a part of it, but if I may just speak as a Missoulian, I moved here in the winter of 1993. Can I get a show of hands of people that remember the paper mill in Smurfit Stone? Can we all agree that air quality in the 90s was terrible? Okay, so if I may share something personal, I moved here in Ireland in 1993. I developed asthma almost immediately. It was bad, and it still is bad. We haven't seen the lower fold of Missoulian today. Air quality in Missoula still, unfortunately, even though many of these great co-workers have closed, we are in this unique geographic area. We get sucked in with bad air. Has anyone been to the Berkeley pit? Alright, so the biggest super fund in our area, we can't afford to clean this out of Montanans. We need federal funding. Since the days of the copper king, people have been exploiting our land, taking our copper, taking our resources, logging, strip mining, you name it. Look at the hill, look at the indelible mark that this kind of corporate influence has made, and frankly, we are all in danger. I don't want to be an alarmist, but that watershed affects east and west. It's uniquely poised on the continental divide, so that thing cannot hold forever. Let's be honest. Birds by the thousands die instantly. Imagine what would happen to us. So I would love to ask our senator how you feel about EPA cuts. I know you want to cut administrative bloat, but what about our water? What about our air? What about our land? How do you feel about that, Senator?
Do you happen to know his stance? You want me to find it? While we're looking for that in an effort to keep moving things along, does anyone else have a question for our senator? And I forgot to give you a shout out earlier too. One of our weekly resistors. We also, Missoula Rises has Wednesday night work parties at Imagination Brewing, and every week we have actions for you to write postcards to your representatives on. And it's also good to just get together, to be together face to face, not online, and share a beer if you want to trust them out. So come join us at our Wednesday night work parties.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Susan. I really feel, tell me if you agree or not, that the words Montana values is being thrown around all the time. I can tell you, I'm a third generation Montanan, and I am raising fourth generation Montanans right here. I make sure I went to public school, and I was in rural Montana, you guys, rural Montana. Farming, ranching, they are good people. They are good people. Things are really confusing right now for a lot of places, but they are good people. So I'm just wondering, Senator Daines, what exactly do you mean by Montana values? Because obviously I was raised very rural, I'm living in Missoula, and I'm raising the next generation of Montanans because I want them to be here because this is an amazing place and we're good to each other. So how do we maintain that? How do we maintain being good to each other? What are your Montana values compared to mine, I guess? Thank you.
That was a really good question, and I don't know how to even phrase the holding up the card for that. But Susan's right. We are a unique state. We're a very unique state, and that it's not so easy just to slap labels on us and put us in boxes. There's so many crossover issues, and I would hate for people to think tonight that this gathering was all Democrats, all liberals, Missoula liberals. We know that in our state, we are independent in many ways. And I'm not talking party, independent party. There are so many issues that cross party lines. And it gives us the ability to work together on many issues. And it also makes it critical that we have representatives that listen to all of us and all of our concerns. So that's my answer on that. How about, anyone else have any questions for the Senator?
Hi, Senator Daines. My name is Kalani Taylor. I don't really know you, but you've written back so much that you letters, they've been answered by staffers, and you send these through form letters. Anyway, you do not ever really answer my questions. I am incredibly concerned about poverty, and the way my brain works, I connect dots to like everything. So the problem with guns, accidental gun discharges that kill people, especially when children are involved, often are in impoverished families. Mom and dad maybe are at work, can't afford a babysitter, all over again. Education. I have a cousin who is a teacher in Nevada who says that all their schools are charter schools, and he has predicted that if Montana goes to charter schools, the only children left in public schools will be the extremely poor and the disabled, who will have no funding and it will be like a warehouse. Healthcare for the poor, homelessness. As you and your allies pull away more funds that help working poor and even not working poor, our elderly, our multi-generational poor, there will be more homeless people, including homeless families. And what I want to know is, what are you going to do then? You going to bury your head in sand and pretend they're not out there, little babies being homeless? It's a huge concern of mine, and I know that you like to think about the here and now and the very near future, if you don't project down the road, you don't look at consequences for your choices very well, and I want you to start doing that. Another question that I have for you that you failed to answer is, if you get everything that you and Trump and your allies want, where will we be? And I don't think that you guys have sat down and connected the dots to think about the consequences of all of the choices that you want to make. And it's pretty ugly when I think about it. I'm a really optimistic person, but when my brain goes there, there's no good. So, what then?
Does anyone else have any, I don't think we have a panelist that can necessarily address that, but I really did appreciate.
I'm not really qualified to respond in depth and in a meaningful way, but I did want to mention that poverty is systemic, and one of the tenets of our society is to take care of all people. So it's perplexing to me why people who hold anti-choice positions oftentimes hold positions that are in opposition to Head Start programs and affordable education, including college, and the like. So it's a cyclical problem. And one of the things that we're really proud of at Planned Parenthood is our ability and our willingness and our commitment to seeing patients regardless of their ability to pay, because we need to take care of everyone in our community.
So Senator Daines, another thing I'd like to just point out about poverty is that it is directly tied to a living wage, and we have not a living wage in this country, and I'm wondering how you stand on that, raising it to something that human beings can live on. I don't know if you've ever tried to do a budget for someone who would make a minimum wage for a family that would have a child and have to try to live. But do it someday, because I think you'll find that it isn't possible on minimum wage.
While they're looking up Senator Daines' position on that, just so everyone knows, federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. I don't know if anyone thinks they could survive on $7.25 an hour. But we encourage Senator Daines to vote to increase the federal minimum wage and to protect the minimum wage from whatever comes down the line.
We found basic, I think the only position on his website, and it essentially says that he supports, when she pulls it up I'll read it verbatim, but it essentially says he supports hardworking Montanans and families. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Job creation in the economy. Getting our economy working again for our small businesses, families, and hardworking Montanans is critical to our nation's success. So, okay, who else has a question? Because I know that we've been waiting to talk to him, and remember that while he's not physically here, he is going to receive a copy of this DVD and a synopsis that I will probably draft. So, who has a question?
Mary Price, Missoula, Montana, 59801. Senator Daines, do you think Donald Trump has an ethical, if not a legal, obligation to release his tax returns If you do think he has that obligation, what specific steps are you taking to ensure that happens? Question 2, do you think the Trump organization has taken adequate steps to divest themselves from what you are doing as president? And I'm just confused. It was my understanding that the Trump sons were going to run the Trump organization and remove themselves from politics. So why is Donald Trump Jr. here to campaign? How is that complying with the ethical issues of divesting yourself? Please explain that, Senator Daines. Thank you.
I'm going to ask this question. If you think that Senator Daines has done a good job of holding our current president accountable for divesting himself and his family, please hold up your green card if you think he's done a great job. Okay. I see you see him there. Okay. Does anyone else have a question that will be videoed and sent to your senator? Anyone else that we'll see if other people who've not asked. Yeah.
Hello, Senator Daines. How are you tonight? Yeah, it's a tough night for you. I got a letter from you today in the mail. I get a lot of letters from you actually, because I do ask for a response because I want a response. I want to know what you have to say about it. My husband calls you my boyfriend because every time I get a letter in the mail, he says, "Oh, your boyfriend wrote you again." So today, my letter was regarding cutting funding for Planned Parenthood, and I had told you that I oppose cutting funding for Planned Parenthood because of the many, many, many services that they offer women, only 3% of which are abortion services, and abortion is also health care. Your response in your letter, which I read like an hour and a half ago, said that you had voted to defund Planned Parenthood and that they would be directing those funds to other eligible women's clinics. That's not too specific, but I have a feeling that other eligible women's clinics means that you will probably be working to send public funds to crisis pregnancy centers. Crisis pregnancy centers are notorious for misinforming women, particularly young, uneducated women who don't know that they're at a crisis pregnancy center, or don't know that they're at an anti-choice crisis pregnancy center. And they tell young women that abortion causes cancer. They tell young women that condoms don't work. There was a report released in 2012 by NABREL Pro-Choice Montana where people went to crisis pregnancy centers and told them that, they thought they were pregnant and what should they do about it? And they were given all sorts of pamphlets about how, they should be ashamed of themselves for getting pregnant and that they wouldn't be able to have children in the future if they had an abortion. And you can read this report, Mr. Daines, it's been sent to you. There was an update in 2014, same thing, same information coming out from crisis pregnancy centers. So my question for you is, does other eligible women's clinics mean you're going to be sending federal funding to clinics that will be cruel to young women and not give them the full range of information and actually give them misinformation? Thank you.
So, as she said, crisis pregnancy centers oftentimes mislead the people that come through their doors about, well, first of all, they oftentimes don't disclose that they're not an all options counseling center. Very few have trained medical staff on site. And the report that was referenced is eye-opening, to say the least. I'm aware of a situation in another state where in trying to understand what the experience was like at a local crisis pregnancy center, a woman went in knowing she was pregnant with a wanted pregnancy. She was given an ultrasound by a person that wasn't trained to do ultrasounds, and the crisis pregnancy center staff put an air bubble above the fetus that said, "Hi, mommy." Yeah, these things need to be addressed. Policy solutions are complicated, but I would love to hear what the senator would have to say about that, about misleading consumers.
Okay, 7:40, so we should wrap up, but I do want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to at least get their question on the record. So if you haven't asked a question and you have one, raise your hand. Woohoo! Yes, come on up.
Senator Daines, are you proud of who you are? Think about it.
Anyone else have a question that they would like to pose to your senator? Is that it? We've got them all? Nope, okay. No, we have to get all the questions that haven't been asked first.
Senator Daines, thank you for showing up for all of us here tonight. It's the first time I've seen you in person. And I really appreciate when you've done the phone conversing that you give such short notice for most of us that have a life and work very hard to catch those phone calls. I guess I would be interested to know if you've invested in stock for face masks and bottled water, since you don't think that clean air and water are important. I'm not sure why you live in one of the most beautiful states if you don't feel like it's worth preserving and supporting keeping it pristine. And one of the main reasons the tourist industry is so important for our state. I guess, I would like to know if this administration is so about transparency, why they just passed not having to let us know who they're selling oil to. I just feel like someone needs to stand up, and I guess I would like to think that you would, like the previous person, decide if you're a good person or a bad person. And if you could answer that question for the rest of us, it would be nice to know.
Eileen. And I have to give a little shout out to Eileen too, because she was part of the planning of this town hall. So thank you for all your work.
Hello, Senator. I still haven't ever met you. My question to you is very, very specific. And I spoke with your staff about it this morning, and they didn't have a response for me. I'm sure they'll get back to me. Sorry. My question is, the latest news is that ExxonMobil has applied for drilling rights in Russia, both the Black Sea and in the Arctic, to have an exemption from the sanctions that have been placed on Russia over the past number of years. This has just come up recently. It's not... And while I understand that the Senate right now may not have an action that they can take to deal with that, respond to it. I would like to know whether you think that ExxonMobil, whose recently retired CEO is now the Secretary of State, should be able to jump through our national security, the sanctions that we have put in place for our own national security, so that they can drill for oil in Russia, making ExxonMobil and Vladimir Putin and his friends wealthy, while our national security is then put at more and more risk. So I want to know what you think about this idea. Thanks.
And this issue, I would like to add, was raised by our community and our Missoula Rises members repeatedly in January. And we went to your office and we stood outside in the freezing cold weather with the snow blowing, and we talked about this issue. We had a meeting with him, and he wouldn't allow us to come in, or his staff wouldn't allow us to come in last minute, so we decided that we would go outside and we would talk about how he would vote on cabinet nominees. And one of our grave concerns was Rex Tillerson. So he has heard from this community, from Missoula and from the state, about our concerns with Rex Tillerson being nominated and his subsequent vote for him. So I would also be interested to hear how he reconciles his vote with the feelings of the folks in the state.
So here's a call to action. You know what has teeth? A Senate committee. You know who's in the Senate? This guy. So you want to ask him to do something? Investigate. Because there's a lot going on.
We'll keep rolling along. Any other questions that from someone who's not been up on the stage? Anyone? Jeremy? No? Okay. All right. Did you have one? Okay. Do you want us to look that up? Okay. So the question is, where does Senator Daines stand on Social Security? So here's what we have on Social Security from Steve Daines' website. I strongly believe Social Security and Medicare provide critical support to seniors and people with disabilities. Tens of millions of Americans rely heavily on these programs for income and access to affordable health care. Unfortunately, major changes in demographics and rising health costs have placed these programs on an unsustainable path. We must make smart decisions to secure the guarantee of Social Security and Medicare for both the current generation and our children and grandchildren. I believe we can and must do this without hurting today's beneficiaries. So that's his position. I would like to add that our community also raised concerns about Tom Price being nominated and voted in as Secretary of Health and Human Services with his cuts that he has promoted previously to Social Security and Medicare. That was another issue that we stood outside in the freezing cold weather and talked extensively on because they would not allow us inside as a group to talk to him. But that was a major concern of ours, and my understanding is that he still voted for Tom Price. So I think that that also gives you some indication as to where he may stand on Social Security. Okay, anyone else? Our MCAT videographer.
Where does he stand on funding the arts?
The question is, where does he stand? Where do you stand on the funding of the arts? That's a great question. While we're looking that up, does anyone have anything else for our senator? Or tapped out? Oh, no, Karen.
Senator Daines, we're missing you tonight. It's disappointing to know tomorrow you're going to be in Hamilton, 50 miles away, and you wouldn't come speak to us. I'm very concerned about health care, and in terms of if the Affordable Care Act is repealed, I was just reading about members of Congress' health care options. It changed a little bit after the Affordable Care Act came into play, and so now they get their health care through the marketplace, but this is in a fact-checking site, and it says if the Affordable Care Act is repealed, members of Congress have a fallback plan. They would be able to return to the FEHBP, which was the federal health care plan from before. 20 million other Americans won't. So I'm asking you, Senator Daines, if you repeal the Health Care Act, would you please remove that benefit that you all receive? Or if you choose not to remove it, would you extend an opportunity to 20 million Americans to receive the same benefit that you all would get? Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I wish he was here to discuss that. That's a very good question. Okay, is that it? Are we wrapped up with questions? It's your last chance. Talk to your senator. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you so much for showing up, because it matters. It matters when we show up. When you show up and you use your voice, we start to be heard. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here and just for showing up and for asking the questions. I'm committing to making sure that he hears these questions. So I will write a synopsis, I will send it to him in letter form, he'll get the video. He is going to hear from all of his constituents, because what we can't forget is even though he may not align with your party or your values, he represents you. He represents every single Montanan. That is his job, to represent us. It doesn't mean that he has to vote the way that you want him to vote, but what it does mean is that he owes you an ear. He owes you a dialogue. That's his job. That's what we're paying him to do. So you need to keep calling, you need to keep writing, you need to let him know every single day that your voice matters. You won't be shut up, you're not going to be silenced, and you certainly aren't going to be silenced by his silence. We are going to keep coming. So I really hope that after he sees this video and he sees that we're not an angry mob, even though he didn't show up and we politely invited him, that he will engage in a dialogue, a true dialogue with his constituents. Doesn't even have to be in Missoula. It could even be in Billings. That would be a great start. But he needs to show up personally. Nothing against Billings, but I just think that Missoula is a liberal hotspot, or it has the reputation for that. But he needs to start, and not with the teletown halls. I mean, we see our other senator doing just that. He's showing up, and that's why he's not in this position. Senator Daines has got himself into this uncomfortable position by his own doing. We're his employers. We hold him accountable. So don't stop. Call every single day. And download the app. Oh, and let me give you the code for the Amplify app. Actually, I'm going to put it on MissoulaRises.com, unless you want to wait a minute for me to find it.
Put it up there anyway.
Okay. Okay, it's coming. 289 029 004. That's the code you need. We'll give you all the information you need every day. Do you have it? 289 029 004. Okay, and I really want to extend a big round of applause and thanks to our panelists, because we literally pulled them together within like the last 48 hours. Or 6 hours, and Josh came all the way from Helena to be here. And I don't know if Emily's still here, but a big thanks to Emily for all of her work. So